Thursday, Travel Thursday. Van life things. Hi friends!
Welcome back to our first ever hot chocolate session of Travel Thursday.
Here in our van.
Yep. We are here today to talk about the top 5 things that we wish that we knew before we started van life, as in before we even bought the van. So the next obvious plan that we had was to buy this. Our new home. Wait, where are you going? Before we started kitting it out, before we started ripping everything out of there and building it from the bottom up, before all that, the top 5 things that we wish that we knew before we even got started.
We definitely had to pare this list down because there were many things.
Many lessons learned.
A lot of you know by looking at Instagram, by looking on YouTube, van life just looks amazing. But there are so many things that you just don't know and you can't tell by a single picture or video. So today we're going to talk about the things that we wish we knew before we started.
So I think we should start here with number 5, and that is, it's not as glamorous as it looks.
We've got some water on the floor. Looks like we have a leak coming from our faucet.
You'll see all of these pictures, videos, everything else on Instagram and on Facebook and all over YouTube and everywhere else of all these van lifers living this seemingly perfect, glamorous, outdoorsy life. And I'm here to tell you, it's not the full truth.
We are proof that this is not the full truth.
I mean, just look at us. Just look at us. You eventually get so used to it that the small things stop bothering you. As in, the first time that you go to the bathroom in the van with your legs just kind of like sticking out of the shower and your partner just 10 feet away from you.
And Octavius also using the restroom at the same time and you just make eye contact.
Yep. Or just the fact that even your bathroom in the van is literally just a 5-gallon bucket with a seat on top of it with a garbage bag in there with some little magic fairy dust on top that makes it smell like Fruit Loops. I can tell you for sure that it's just not that glamorous. This is an outdoors life. This is camping with just bringing all of your gear with you in the back of this really big vehicle. There's a lot of driving, there's a lot of really early mornings. Good morning. Kitty says good morning. It is 5:45. There's a lot of really late nights. There's a lot of searching for campgrounds and you can't really find them. And there's just a lot of just being generally sweaty and dirty just all the time.
And if you're like us, you're just not showering as much as you think that you would. With no...
Tick.
Oh, really?
Tick.
No, we didn't do a tick check. Okay.
So for sure, this is one of the most important things that we learned along the way, and these are just a couple of examples. It's a beautiful lifestyle. It's incredible. The amount of freedom that you get and the beautiful places that you get to stay are just absolutely priceless, but is definitely not as glamorous as it looks.
Yeah.
Number 4, and I think that this is a lesson that every van lifer learns at some point along the way, but usually just by experience in the hard way. Spend more on the van than you're comfortable with. It can be really easy to look at these cheap vans online, somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000, and they got a bunch of miles on them, and then think, wow, this will be a great deal. I'm gonna build my home on top of this really cheap van, and nothing bad will happen, and it'll be totally fine, and I'll become a car mechanic, and I'll be able to fix anything that comes up.
We are also full proof of that truth.
And I gotta say, if I had to do this whole thing again, I would have spent about $15,000 to $20,000 and get a new or mostly new van. I would have bought a Ram ProMaster, but even outside of that, I think had we spent a little bit more on the chassis, on the frame of this thing, the actual vehicle that gets us around, I think we would have had a lot better time.
And that makes total sense, because if you're traveling, trying to go to see these amazing national parks or visit your friends and family, the last thing that you want to have happen is just be stuck in the middle of the road and driving from dealership to dealership. So yeah. Definitely, we would have spent more on our van if we could have.
For sure.
Number 3, van life takes way more planning than you think it does. I always imagined that when we had a van, we would just be able to pull off on the side of the road anywhere, at any beautiful sunset spot, and just be able to sleep there for the night. Totally wrong. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Poor kitty.
Kitty's sliding around like he's at an ice rink back there.
Turns out You have to really plan for anywhere that you're going to sleep at night. Not only because everyone else is also trying to reserve those spots, it can be actually hard and dangerous to drive late at night looking for a campsite, especially if you're looking for an unmarked boondocking site.
And also, most of the campsites, the good ones that you want, the free ones, are in very popular areas, and these very popular areas are going to be filled with people, and it's going to be really hard to find an open spot. And if you're going to a national park where you'd have to reserve a spot in advance, you're normally talking a couple months at worst in advance that you need to book it, or maybe a couple weeks if you're lucky. So there's just a lot more planning, a lot more thinking in advance, and you kind of expect there to be a lot more freedom, as in you can just kind of go wherever you want, whenever you want. And that's true if you are okay with spending most nights in a Walmart parking lot or something similar to that.
Yeah.
Those will always be available, they'll always be around, and they're normally pretty great.
Yeah.
But for people like us who wanted to stay in nature, who kind of wanted to experience some of the more camping, outdoorsy aspects of living in a van, it just required a lot more planning than we thought.
On top of that, you also have to plan things like your water supply, your solar. You have to make sure if you're going to go off the grid, you're going to have all the necessities that you'll need to be able to actually go off the grid.
You always kind of have this mental note of how much of that you have left and when you need to get it refilled. Number 2, and I think the one for me that was the hardest out of all these. I honestly think that the key to enjoying van life is moving slowly. And this was something that I absolutely failed miserably at.
So yeah, we're looking for a bit of adventure, and so far we haven't been able to find it.
We were going kind of as fast as we could, especially once the van started breaking down. We were moving from place to place almost every night, sometimes every 2 nights. And even when we'd stay at a place for a couple of nights in a row, I'd just get kind of restless and bored and want to be doing more, and I just felt like the pace of van life was just a lot slower than what I expected it to be.
Off we go. Ah!
You see all the Instagram photos, you see all the glamour shots, the amazing national parks that you get to visit. People don't realize you have to drive far, and you have to drive a lot. But the key to enjoying that drive is breaking it up at some awesome spots along the way. Definitely made some bad choices by just long hauling days, driving 13, 14-hour days, really when we didn't need to.
Van life in a hurry is just a really expensive, pretty uncomfortable road trip in a vehicle that's way too big. It just absolutely guzzles gasoline and honestly doesn't fit or park almost anywhere.
Okay, we're 9'6". Hopefully that'll fit.
If you're in a hurry while you're doing van life, you're just going to have a bad time. So make sure that if you're going to commit to this, especially doing this full time, that you have a lot of time to just do van life stuff. Trying to work a job or trying to make videos like we were doing, we kind of felt like we were always stretching ourselves a bit thin, just because trying to live van life takes up almost all of your time, getting from place to place.
Hey dude, which way to Bozeman?
Oh my gosh.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Managing all the little stuff in the van, and admittedly this is just because we were kind of bad at it at first, so it took a lot of our time. But I do think that if you're capable of downshifting, which I found out that I'm not very good at, and slowing down and being able to spend a week in each destination or 4 or 5 nights or something like that, and not get bored, not feel like you want to go see something else, not feel like things are just going too slow, just being able to just sit around and do nothing. If that's something that you love, van life is going to be perfect for you.
I think our favorite memories are when we did exactly that.
Number 1, and I think this sort of golden ideal, this amazing experience that we never really got to have, but the number 1 thing is that when everything is working, your van is working, all the stuff inside of your van, your water, your electricity, your refrigerator, your stove, your solar, everything else, when all of that's working, van life is just the most amazing, beautiful, perfect way to live.
Your cat's happy, you're sleeping well, it's warm, it's cozy, there's no mosquitoes. It is as Instagrammable as you think it is. We had some pretty amazing nights in our van. When we spent one night outside of Jackson Hole at this amazing boondocking site right outside the mountains where we got to visit a hot springs in the morning.
Yeah, there are just some once-in-a-lifetime amazing experiences that this is really the best and only way that you can experience them. Just being able to pack everything up in this van, not having to pull something behind you, means that you can fit this almost anywhere that isn't a city. So that means that a lot of the sites that are off limits to a lot of other people, you can just pull right into and it's great.
Yeah. And one of our most favorite parts about doing van life was that it gave us the ability to travel and see our friends and family at a time when no one really could. We were able to drive up to our friends' driveways, just park there for the night.
Shower, a little bit of rest,
Home-cooked meal!
and a home-cooked meal.
I'm so excited. It was an amazing time. And it was in a year where nothing was possible, van life helped make a lot of it possible.
But then again, with van life, something's pretty much always going to be broken.
We may or may not have had to put the car in neutral and move it physically.
Especially when everything started breaking down in our van, which only happened a couple of weeks after we left. It really felt like this experience was robbed from us. And I think that going back to rule number 4, I would have spent a little bit more on the van so that way we could have a much better experience throughout the entirety of the time, because rule number 1 says, when everything's working, van life is perfect. So that's it. Those are the top 5 things that we wish that we knew before we started van life. Do you have anything else that you want to add to this? Throw it down in the comments below so that way everyone can talk about it. We can all discuss these lessons learned that we all found out the hard way by living van life.
We hope this was helpful, and while we may not be doing Hawaii videos for a little bit and switching gears to van life, we really hope that you follow along with us. Click that subscribe button and give us a like, it really helps us.
Yeah. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next one.
Travel Thursday, Travel Thursday. Van life things.
Van life things, yeah, van life things. Then I'll go like...
Ooh, I look so sweaty.
We are sweaty. We are here today. We are gathered here today. Please hold.
We are proof that this is not the... We are proof that this is not the full proof. What? We are proof.
Dead Tig.
Also,
Look, he's still trying.
jeez, we didn't check. Where did it come from?
I don't know, it's just on my hand.
Number 3. Number 3. Nah.
Yeah.
So subscribe. We hope that you subscribe and follow along. And give us that like button.
Give us a like button. You gotta build it. You gotta send it in the mail to us. And then we'll open it up on camera and we'll say thank you for this like button.
Hi, kitty. What do you got to tell us? So many things to say.